Yeah, I mean, software is like a joke. If you have to explain it, it's not that good. Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me if I'd rather be lucky or smart, I'd rather be lucky. The best way to be the number one position is to be the first position. So, and then they're all like, oh, this is the greatest day in the world. You've now got 11 horses. I mean, I fix problems that people don't know that they have yet using technologies, half of which I don't even understand.
Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be talking with Devon Seacrest, expert front-end developer, seasoned entrepreneur, and user testing enthusiast. We'll be discussing how to do user testing properly, what process he uses to break down his development tasks, and we'll even touch on how to increase your salary and move up in the software world. If you enjoy the content on this channel, make sure to obliterate the like button and demolish the subscribe button. That's enough of me talking. Let's get to the interview. Would you go ahead and tell us kind of a little about what your current role is so that everyone can kind of understand what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I fix problems that people don't know that they have yet using technologies, half of which I don't even understand. I'm a senior software engineer. I specialize in greenfield software development solutions. So software usually from scratch. I've worked both with small and large companies. My passion is particularly the front end, but also front-end web development that ties into some sort of modern cloud provider technology.
Very cool, cool. And so one of the things I think people want to hear on this channel is like how people got to where they are in their current position. So you said you're kind of a senior software engineer. So kind of walk us through that path of how you got from not into software into this, because I know you kind of have an interesting story.
Yeah, so from very early on, I was always technical. So even, 16 years old, I was always, doing stuff with early web development, HTML, CSS, Java type stuff. But I never called myself, a developer, coder, programmer. Um, I actually started in the software industry from the other side of the business, which is the, business development, sales, kind of leadership, project management side. Was doing a lot of startups and slowly realized that there weren't a lot of coders out there, and I was constantly getting held hostage for product development with coders coming and going, CTOs coming and going. So I realized that I needed to know how to you know do the entire gamut from software development all the way to the business side.
Interesting. So did you find that to be kind of a hard transition going from having a little bit of dabbling in the code to all the way actually being a software engineer?
Yeah, I mean, my first language I ever learned was the VBA, so doing like Excel macro snippets. And yeah, I luckily I had a really good CTO that I was working with that kind of helped mentor me and transition me from more of the business side to nowadays all I do is code.
Okay, very good. I will ask, if you had to do it all over again, is there anything you would do differently in your path?
I think as soon as I knew I wanted to do software, it'd probably become, more technical,
Mhm.
uh, not dilly-dally, and just I think I don't know if it was Peter Thiel in one of his books. He was one of the PayPal founders with Elon Musk. He said, if you're going to be a startup founder or leader or have any involved, you need to be technical.
Mhm.
And I take a lot of books with a grain of salt, but that one just kind of kept sticking with me, and so um, became more technical.
Sounds good. So also, I assume a lot of people listening kind of want to move up in the industry, probably higher paying jobs, cool titles like you have. Are there any kind of recommendations or tips or like hacks for people to kind of move forward faster in their career?
Oh man, quit your job every 2 years. Unfortunately, it seems like everyone that I know is advanced has just had to like leave their current company, reapply for, twice the amount and, twice the title, um, which is unfortunate. That shouldn't be the way, or start your own company.
Mhm.
The best way to be the number one position is to be the first position. So or be the first one in the company, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of times it is having that just working your ass off, continually studying, and then having those difficult conversations with your boss.
Oh, very good. So, okay, this is kind of a fun one. Uh, can you think of like the worst career decision you've made, or maybe someone else you know have made that people could kind of learn a life lesson from or save themselves some time so they don't make the same sort of mistake?
Oh man, that's a tough one. It reminds me of this story about this. There's this horse farmer that has only one son, and one day one of their horses runs away, and everyone's like, "Oh man, that's the worst thing in the world. That was your only horse." But the next day, the horse comes back with 10 stallions, and then they're all like, "Oh, this is the greatest day in the world. You've now got 11 horses." And then the next day, the only son is training one of the stallions, breaking in the stallions, and the stallion kicks him off and he breaks his leg. And they're like, "Oh no, this is the worst day in the world. Your only son, who helps you with all your farm chores, is injured." And then the next day, the army comes to his house to try to draft him for the army into the war, and his whole platoon gets shipped off and they all die in the war. So um, I hate looking back and being like, that was the worst decision I made, because there were a lot of really crappy decisions that I made that ended up turning into really good things.
Hmm.
Um, your blessings become your curses and your curses become your blessings. If I were to have to point one out, it would be that to not abandon things just because your first encounter with the user is not great.
Hmm.
So, if you build something and your first encounter maybe doesn't go as fully as you planned, don't just throw it away. Do small iterations, because a lot of times you'll run into a different customer that will want that previous thing you built and you've already scrapped the whole thing. Um, so that'd be my advice.
That's a good one. So I think this is something a lot of people in our industry feel, and I feel it really bad. The imposter syndrome, where someday you feel like you're king of the world and you can solve any problem. Then later that day, you're doing something, you have no clue what you're doing. You're like, security should escort me out of here because I am a fraud at this point. So do you ever
Okay.
feel imposter syndrome? And if so, do you do anything about it, or you just roll with it, or what?
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me if I'd rather be lucky or smart, I'd rather be lucky. um, yeah, you're right. If you're working on technologies and a tech stack that you really understand and things just go so smoothly and you're just like, all right, I've done this a million times, or this is so familiar to something I've done, like life is great. And then you just, introduce something new or go to a different company, and it's almost like your life just resets. But if you've been doing it long enough, a lot of the technologies have a lot of overlapping patterns and foundations. And so you've been one of the ones that told me is like, every time I run into an issue, it's really just your attitudes towards the issue. And you're always great when, full disclaimer, we've worked together a long time ago, not too long, but um, you're always, all right, let's figure this out. Like, even if you go into it with no idea what my problem is or if you can even fix it, you're always
Mhm.
just like, all right, we're going to figure this out. Like, let's do this. Or I forget what the actual line is, but
Yeah, no, I wish I had a cool catchphrase or anything, but yeah, you just dive in there and eventually, hopefully, you'll figure it out.
yeah.
Uh, so this is one I liked for you because it's a process question, and I know this is something you're really good at. So if you're given a task to take on, but you don't know anything about it, kind of take me through that process of what you do to maybe break it down or understand it or make it more digestible so you can accomplish it, particularly in
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah. So, if there's a big task, and the first thing is, if you don't understand it, the best thing you can do, obviously, like you said, is breaking it down into smaller pieces, into smaller, more manageable sized pieces that you can go after. Uh, there's a process too that one of my mentors introduced me to, which was creating white docs for difficult tasks that you knew were going to take more than 5-6 hours, or a day or so. And through that process is breaking down, describing the problem, describing the trade-offs for the problems, the requirements, the secondary requirements, just kind of making this little checklist that you do every time for a task. And the goal is not to spend a lot of time on it. In fact, the goal is almost to, time box yourself for only an hour.
Mhm.
It's mostly just to get your brain kind of, spinning, and to actually take time to think about stuff before you just jump in and, start coding.
Absolutely. Because I think a lot of people do that where they just have a problem. They go, I'm going to get in the code. And without breaking it down properly, they end up wasting a lot of time. So completely understand. This is next one you could probably spend a full hour talking about, but I know you have a super passion for user testing, and I've watched you in action. It's really fun. So, how do you think that should kind of play into the development lifecycle, particularly for developers, but anybody that could be involved in it?
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, software is like a joke. If you have to explain it, it's not that good.
Mhm.
So, if you have to tell your customers how to use something, or like walk them through, or, all those technologies where like literally takes you through the program, if you have to do that, then haven't built very good software. Um, and if you're not doing monthly usability testing, from day one of the software you're building, you like should pack up shop and like close everything down. To me, it is like the first hire should be someone with UI experiences versus the first hire should be someone with coding experience. And stats have proven the money spent early on in the UI UX process will add, like 100 times the value just throwing a coder in there and having them, add code to the process. So yeah, like you said, I could spend a whole, podcast session on this, but
But
I don't want to.
one thing I do want to ask you about is a lot of people who do the user testing will see it themselves, give a little bit of feedback. You have a thought where everybody in the company should see it, or who should be seeing these user testing recordings?
Yeah. So if you think about it, and I'm stealing a lot of this from Steve Krug, who's kind of like the godfather of usability testing, but it should be a democratic process,
Okay.
and not just with the development side, but the entire company, marketing, finance, leadership, project management, development. Everyone should have a say, because all of those divisions are responsible for making the whole company a success. The product's got to, be marketed for eventually and sold. The product's got to, make financial sense. The product's, got to be on times, and the product's got to actually be built. So all those divisions need to have a say in what's happening. So if you follow Steve Krug's, do it yourself usability testing, you Google that, you'll see that you have one person that kind of implement or do the usability testing, but you record it and you have the entire team watch it. And after everyone's watching it, everybody gets a vote, and everybody gets an equal vote. And then wherever those votes went towards slowly iterating and improving the software, that's what you put in the sprint next. That's what you backlog next. That's what you work on next.
Awesome. I wonder how many people out in the world are actually doing that, because that process, we've done it before on some other stuff, and it's super helpful getting feedback quick and building the right stuff fast.
Oh yeah. I mean, the people that aren't doing it are just getting either just wicked smart or just getting very lucky and with what they're doing. So
Perfect,
I
perfect.
don't have either of those.
Neither do I. So let's get into like cloud computing stuff. So a lot of people are probably going to be talking about cloud stuff. They've used it. What kind of cloud computing have you used? And if you've used multiple, like what's your favorite, or do you have a preference?
Oh man. Yeah, I've used multiple. Most of our stuff has been Microsoft products, just based off of kind of where I live. A lot of the companies use Microsoft. On some of my own projects, I've kind of floated into some different cloud providers, kind of some of the Google stuff, or Supabase, Firebase type stuff. Some of those newer, more modern, either cloud stuff or kind of cloud add-on technologies. But I really like the Microsoft stuff, Azure stuff, infrastructure as code stuff. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're an Azure guy, so I assume you got your Azure tattoo somewhere on you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Excellent. So on the topic of that, like with the cloud computing, there's so many different things, like so many different services that could be in Azure. We have Azure DevOps, you do front end stuff in Vue. We got Terraform as infrastructure as code. We could be working on a service like a queue. Um, like what is your process for when you need to start learning one of these new services or something like that? I know we talked about breaking down a task, but is there a way that you're able to quickly learn like a new bit of technology?
Ah, man, find someone that already knows how to do it. uh and get their experience. There's like, it's a valid argument too, is even if documentation and videos, like going through all of that stuff, um it's not as the same as someone that's actually taken the time to actually put it together, and put it together for all of the different variations of technical stack that you have going on. So honestly, the best thing, yeah, is like getting out, whether that's someone internally you have in your company, whether that's finding research online, finding a Reddit, finding some of the mentor services online, um, uh, you know, software like CodeBuddy that can, help you, pick out and help you get that stuff, built out for you. Uh, yeah.
Okay, so you kind of answered the next question, but if someone had to pick up a cloud provider at, like, say they just went to a new company and said, I got to learn AWS or I got to learn Google Cloud, are there any other tips or anything that you would give them to be able to adapt and learn to that environment quicker?
I'd say getting a mentor would be a huge one. There's a lot of softwares on there that can help you connect with mentors too as well, if you don't have something within your company. Another thing is build, stupid side projects, like little prototypes or stuff that are super lightweight, or passion projects, or your church needs a website or something
Uh-huh.
that's not super like heavy, but allows you to like stand up a technical stack with a cloud provider pretty quick, and kind of just test that out.
Very good, very good. I love the idea of the side projects too, because that's when I got started. That was kind of my bread and butter. Is just got in there, did it myself, and you learn some good habits and some bad habits along the way. All right, you ready for some lightning questions? Get your opinion on some stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's start at the top. There's only 10 of them, so it'll go pretty quick. Are you a Windows or Mac person?
Windows, unless I'm doing design, but
Uh,
well, still Windows.
Still Windows, okay. Do you prefer working on a laptop or desktop?
Laptop always.
Okay.
A desktop, throw it out the window. Like, you should be mobile,
Okay.
especially nowadays.
So you can always be on the move. I love it. What
Always
about,
on the move.
do you like working in this weird world of hybrid? Do you like working from home or do you like working in the office?
Originally, I liked working from home, but like there wasn't enough change of pace, so I started going to the office. Now I do a little bit of both.
Okay. So you embrace them both. All right. Do you prefer the sprint setup or the Kanban setup?
Uh, Kanban. Yeah.
Okay. Are you one of those people that love a good monolith application or microservices?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that's even a question. Microservices,
Uh,
like your team and your product, your team should be no bigger than like what can sit around and share a large pizza, and that team should work on the microservice. And if you've got more people, if you have the luxury of having more people in your organization, they should be on a separate team and a separate like microservice, all like talking to each other.
Fair enough. All right. I don't know the difference between the two, and I'm curious if you do Scrum or Agile.
I know what agile is. I'm pretty sure what Scrum is, but I'm not I can give you a teaching on Scrum, so I'm gonna go agile.
Okay, I was going to say unpopular opinion. I don't know a lot of people that actually know the difference between the two. But moving on. When you want to learn something, do you hop in the docs or do you like to watch videos for it or
When I
something
first
else?
when I first got started, videos, because you could like, I didn't know what anything was, and so being able to see it visually, like literally them in the Visual Studio or VS Code or whatever ID they were using, like you could see what they were clicking on, like making sure that yours looked just like them. Now that I'm a little more experienced, it's mostly docs. I haven't watched a video in a little while.
All right. Favorite front-end JavaScript framework?
Oh, that's
Because I
tough.
know you've worked in a few.
Yeah, I split between Vue and Angular. I haven't worked in React actually, so I'm in both Angulars, the early one and the new one. Um, I'm starting to like what Angular is becoming a little more than Vue, but we'll see.
Okay. Favorite IDE?
VS Code.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And so you're at work, you're stuck on something. Do you want to hop on a video call or do you like async chat communication?
Probably video call.
Okay.
You just mean like chat with them versus hop on a call and
Yeah. You're stuck on something.
yeah.
Okay. All right. We're going to kind of wrap this up here. So, what tips or advice would you give others that I kind of haven't asked about or haven't touched on as far as career development goes or cloud computing kind of in general?
I'd say, pick up some of the classic books. Mythical Man Month by Fred Brooks, Code Complete, Clean Code. If you're in architecture, some of the iDesign stuff. Those would be kind of the ones. I'm a big reader, so
Okay, cool.
that's
And
my
then
support for me.
let's end it on, is there anything else you want to kind of grandstand about or promote? You got a last minute here, kind of like hot ones. If there's anything you want to say.
No, I don't think that's it. I mean, I got to rep CodeBuddy for a little bit. So, CodeBuddy is a tool that I've started using that allows you to hire kind of code example on demand. So, there's a trillion different ways you can do the same program with different languages, libraries. Databases, IDEs, frameworks, etc. And so CodeBuddy is just a way to hire someone to kind of build you this lightweight prototype solution, like I said, kind of like a mentor to show you how to do something before you jump in and do it. It's been very valuable for my own development, and when I'm not working full time, I also help develop on it. So full disclaimer out there.
Very cool. Good promotion. So that's all I got for you. So thank you for taking the time for this, and I hope that people enjoy your recording.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.